Coming up on Kochie's Business Builders, we take a look at getting good PR for your business, find out the best strategies for dealing with stress, and catch up with an old-fashioned cobbler exporting to the world. Welcome back to Kochie's Business Builders. We're looking at some really important but often neglected aspects of small business this week. First up is public relations, where we dig into the best approach for getting publicity for your business. Then after that, it's time to dive into dealing with stress as a small business owner. Of course, we've also got a terrific entrepreneur in the spotlight and a tech tip from Val. But enough from me, let's get started with news you can use. A small business's hiring process usually involves culling resumes, interviewing, and then testing applicants. However, suggests this is all backwards. Research shows costs can be reduced and better hires made by using short web-based tests as the first screening step. Employees for a UK security company were recently given a standard 18-question online assessment. The results revealed the bottom 30% of employees had 5 times as many accidents as the top 30%. Research in hotel, customer service and retail in Australia and Europe has shown similar patterns, allowing for quick culling of candidates. So, next time you have an empty chair, look past the resumes and into online testing. It might mean a smaller, better qualified pool of potential hires. Plastic Forests is a unique Australian recycling business, reprocessing the millions of plastic bags we throw away every day. Founder Dave Koch has launched a world-first technology but needs some pointers on good PR. We sent in PR expert Vuki Usanovic to share his strategies for getting the word out.
So David, tell me a bit about your business and how you got started.
Well, the business started about 10 years ago with John Lawson and Global Renewables, right here in Sydney. Global Renewables processes about 220,000 tonnes a year of red top municipal waste. And out of that, some 16,000 tonnes, or in real terms, about 550 semi-trailer loads of that is plastic film. So what we've been able to do is to develop a world first, a unique process to take that plastic, clean that plastic, and to be able to make real products that real people want.
What sort of media work have you done so far, whether it's PR or advertising, to get the word out there?
Yeah, great question. We've been keeping it a big secret. We've sought no media, we've sought no attention, and that's because we wanted to focus in on purely the R&D. Now that we've solved the problem, we can actually demonstrate that to people. So what we've done is real. And so now we're just beginning to start the advertising, to start the public relations, to start the selling of the products we have.
So word of mouth has been a big, growth avenue for you, but public relations and engaging with the media can really ramp that up. So you're ready for that now?
Yes, we are, and we'd love some help.
So I've had a look at your website, David, and there's already a lot of great content on there for your customers about your products, some videos, but it's important to create a media section as well. Make it really, really easy for journalists to write a story about plastic forests. The sort of stuff you should have on there are, high-res logos, photos of yourself and the co-founders, great photos of your products, which you already have, videos, contact information, press releases, a backgrounder about your company, all that sort of information that provides the meat of any story a journalist wants to write about plastic forests. There are environment writers at all the major publications, all the major newspapers around Australia that you can easily speak to and tell them about your business. It's important to go into these pitches and interviews with journalists with a few key messages in mind and really think about what you want the reader or the viewer or the listener to remember. So have a few key messages in mind before you approach any journalist and make sure you hammer those points home.
Vuki, one of the things we're trying to achieve is to influence the general public, to be able to change their perception of plastic and for them to be able to influence the manufacturers and government. What sort of things should we be doing to reach the general public?
In the past, public relations was all about dealing directly with journalists and trying to get media outlets to run your story. But now, social media gives you an avenue and a communications channel to talk directly to your customers. It's absolutely free to set up a Facebook and Twitter page, and Plastic Forests should be on there. It's important to have a think about the objectives of your PR campaign. So really think about what you're trying to achieve with your media outreach. Have custom key messages for different journalists you're targeting, and really get to know the media outlets that you pitch to. Make sure you're reading these publications day in, day out before you approach them.
Kochie, at what stage should we be seeking some outside assistance?
So the good news is, David, you can really get started on your PR campaign by yourself. And, we've spoken a bit about the first things you can do, and they're going to get you some great results. When you feel like you're spinning too many plates at once, you have too many different stories going to different media outlets, and this whole PR campaign is taking you away from your business too much, that's the right time to get an agency in to help you manage that workload and make sure you can spend as much time on your core business as possible while still maintaining a great PR campaign.
Coming up next on KBB, a Tasmanian oyster business that's battled bushfires and come out on top. This business tip brought to you by NAB. We see Australian business.
So, David, you say you see Australian business. What if I'm an oyster farmer doing it tough? What do you see for me?
I mean, the main thing is don't be stressed. We understand that things do go wrong from time to time, and just come to us and we'll help you.
But what about my business loan?
Best thing you can do is come to us early. Don't leave it too long because things usually do get worse.
Who's the human being I talk to?
So the best thing you can do, Kochie, is come into what we have, the division called NAB Care, and you need to contact them and give us as much of the detail as you can about what the problem is, and we'll work through it with you and we'll get the right solution for you.
Do I bring along things like my bank statements, financials, payslips?
Yeah, so you bring that, and we want to know money that you owe to other people and what's owed to you, and we'll bring all that together, and we also will want to understand what is the cause of the problem, and let's see what we can do to help get you back to health.
OK, better give me the contact.
Yeah, sure will, Kochie. Just call NAB Care and we'll help you out.
For more information, visit nab.com.au/smallbusiness. Cameron's of Tasmania is a major supplier of the Australian Pacific oyster industry. This was one of the many small businesses burnt by the New Year bushfires that ripped through that state. It was an extremely stressful time for Ben Cameron and his family, but they carefully managed and came out in one piece. To find out exactly how they got through that extremely tough time, stress management expert Sarah Redmond caught up with Ben.
Recently you've experienced quite a disaster situation. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so I'm sure a lot of people would have heard and seen about the bushfires that were in Dunalley in January of this year. What that did was it cut off the power and water supply to all of our hatcheries, so that affected all of the little baby oysters. Well, what was communicated to me originally was that we'd actually lost our business, and thankfully that hadn't happened. It was misinformation, but I was contemplating the loss of my business, which is a third generation that looks after 35 employees and hundreds of regional businesses.
What did you do then to handle the stress of the impact on your business and having to, I suppose, claw your way back?
My fiancée identified in me that I was very, very stressed. I might have thought that I was a little bit stressed, but it was much more apparent to her that I was quite stressed. I had to go and talk to my GP. That's,
Yeah.
And a lot of people just, I'm a bloke. I can do that. And I did the same thing, but sometimes you do need to go and get a bit of a kick. We started to try and really focus on what was really important.
Yeah.
The fact is that nobody died in the Dunalley bushfires.
And that will strengthen your capacity to support your team here as well too, because you've demonstrated how you've handled stress in a healthy way, which role models for them, but you're more likely to be able to identify when some of your team might be stressed and help them with that as well too. Now in the business, how do you feel about where you're at as a business owner and your capacity to move forward?
I think that once you've dealt with something like that, if you're going through that yourself and you get through it, then you realise, well, hang on, that's probably the worst that it's going to be for quite a long time. So all of a sudden that underlying base level of stress that you might have suddenly seems a little bit more insignificant.
And the key tips that we give to businesses in that chronic stress space are firstly to make sure they factor in regular time for reflection. So regular reflection on two levels, for you as an individual, but also for you as a business owner. So as an individual, you need to actually make sure you have space in your life, that you feel balanced and that you're doing things just for you that allow you to recover your energy reserves. Then for you as a business, once a week at a minimum, 2 to 3 hours, spending time on the strategy of the business. A lot of business owners get caught up in the operational side of things, and that's obviously risky because you lose sight of your direction, your why. Why are you doing this? Where are you trying to get to? The second tip is to consciously respond to stress. And I mentioned earlier that we don't often even recognize we're stressed. And this is what you've done. Find the positive in the stress. Stress actually has a purpose. Stress is meant to move us to action, and stress is a positive thing. If we had no stress in our lives, we wouldn't grow, we wouldn't change.
Coming up next on KBB, we catch up with an old-fashioned cobbler exporting to the world.
Managing cash flow is a constant challenge for small businesses, but there's no reason for tax obligations to make it any harder. You see, the ATO is here to help small businesses meet their tax obligations, and with just over 60% of tax debt owed by small businesses, it's important to know that support is available. If you're having trouble paying tax debts on time, we'll work with you to see if there's an alternative way to pay it off. As well as flexible payment arrangements, the ATO can help with business assistance visits, tailored information, webinars and workshops. The key for your business is to be up to date as possible, so even if you can't pay your bill by the due date, be sure to lodge your BAS on time and we'll take it from there. Just call us early to let us know and we can work out a solution together. So if you're worried about a tax debt, pick up the phone or check out the new Small Business Assist to find out how we can help.
Andrew McDonald's Shoes is one of my very favourite local businesses. They produce superb products, have terrific service and take a tailored approach to every customer. And they manage this on an international scale out of a simple arcade shopfront. KBB's Alex Brophy caught up with Andrew to get his secrets to success.
So Andrew, you've carved out a really successful niche in what's a bit of an old world industry. Tell us about how you got started.
I got into photography. I did that for about 10 years. I was doing a freelance job and my job was to photograph a shoemaker. His name was Paul Harnden and we automatically got on straight away. I loved his business model and the product that he produced, and he kind of became an initial inspiration. And then started my business and was fortunate enough to get a Churchill Fellowship and started my business from there.
You've got a beautiful bespoke product in what's a mass-produced discount retail industry. How does the marketing approach differ?
Well, it's about concentrating on developing strong relationships with our customers, but building those relationships over time. It's about product innovation, so always having something new, some new idea. And it's also about having very clear communication about what we do.
So you say word of mouth is central to your marketing. Is there anything you can do to sort of kick that along and get the talk going?
Newsletters really help that, and also through various blogs that we communicate through. So they become our little messages on the way. And I think that's a really important thing nowadays.
But it's not just shoes that you produce. You've had really successful process diversifying your business. Can you tell us a bit about that?
I think that's been the essence of the business. We do bespoke service for men and women. We produce ready-to-wear shoes. We do shoemaking courses. And we also wholesale domestically and internationally.
So Andrew, you're now exporting 20% of your products overseas. How has that side of the business evolved?
Look, I've always wanted to export my product, and I decided 5 years ago that I would go to Paris and show my shoes. The real thing with showing overseas and in Paris is it does take time, and again, it's about building relationships. But the great thing about being there is, in Australia, the style and the market that we're pegging is very, very small. But when you go overseas, it's like there's a whole suite of people in your area. So that kind of helps you because you all of a sudden realise that there's lots of people out there who like your stuff, instead of just a very small percentage of the population.
So Andrew, what are your tips for establishing a premium small business brand in a big industry like you have?
I think the first thing is to have a really solid business plan And behind that business plan, you need to have the framework of a marketing plan. So that's pretty obvious. They're the bedrocks, the foundations of the business. And then I think you need to have a product that is not already serviced in the market. You have to produce something that is unique, but is still going to be desirable and appeal to the general public. So integration of the product, unique offer, but a very thorough business plan behind that, and I think you'll do okay.
This payments tip brought to you by BPay.
The first step to getting paid quickly is making sure it's easy for your customers to pay you. And the key to this is to get your bill or invoice right. This can sometimes be hard, but there are a number of companies to help you with this process. One of them is Invoice2Go. Invoice2Go is an invoicing app that is simple to use on your mobile, tablet or PC. Invoice2Go can be used with BPay. Just enter your biller code and it will generate BPay customer reference numbers if you don't already have them. The app then fills in the required BPay details and you're ready to finalise those important invoices. Talk to your bank today about becoming a BPay biller. For information about Invoice2Go, visit invoice2go.com.au.
Visit bpay.com.au/SME for more information. Next up, it's Ask Kochie, where we answer another small business question from the crowd. This Business in the Spotlight brought to you by BPay.
We're called Energy SA. We're just a small solar company in South Australia, and we design and install solar systems.
So for small businesses, Robbie, what's the big benefit of getting solar panels installed?
Small businesses use all their power during the day, so because they've got high energy costs and they're using that power while the sun's shining, they can reduce their bills massively by putting solar on it. With a payback period of so little, 3 to 4 years, solar is no longer a decision that people make environmentally. It is as well, but it's financially it makes sense.
Is it a pretty boom industry at the moment? I mean, renewable energy and sort of cutting carbon emissions is pretty popular. What sort of growth have you guys been through?
Yeah, well, I guess it is a boom-bust industry in that, the government has set a target for 2020 to reduce carbon, and whenever there's a deadline, people jump on board and try and get us, and all of a sudden there's more work than we can handle, sort of thing, and then obviously there's a lull after that.
And how do you manage that sort of boom-bust industry?
We're a diverse company. We're not only concentrated on solar, but we also do electrical as well. So being that we are diverse, we know that when the industry slows down, we can concentrate on the other side of our business, doing air conditioning and just normal residential electrical work.
What have been the biggest challenges that you've come across?
Cash flow is always an issue that we have to monitor very quickly. We're outlaying a lot of money for material, and so we need to make sure that money's coming in, so we need to make sure that the customers are paying on time and that we're processing our paperwork correctly.
What have been the huge benefits to date of moving across to the BPay system?
Originally we were using credit card terminals, and they were very expensive. We only had like one terminal which we were sharing between 5 vans, and basically we were only doing sort of 3 transactions a week maximum on the credit card terminal and paying all these merchant fees to keep it. We looked for an alternative, and BPay setup fees were really cheap, and then the transaction fees were minimal, so it was so much cheaper for people to be able to use that type of facility. Some people, credit card facility is a must, and so now that we're able to offer that, it ticks the box for them.
Visit bpay.com.au/SME for more information.
It's Tech Tip Time with Val Quinn.
Comes to online business, everybody wants to be on the front page of Google's search results. So how do you get there? Well, SEO, or search engine optimization, is a term that we've probably all heard about. Well, how does this work, and what do you need to know? The thing to keep in mind is that SEO is a dynamic thing. So what worked a few years ago doesn't necessarily work as well today. So back then, things like tagging or backlinking might have been important, but now things like the quality of your content really matter to searches. So for example, your content should be 100% original. You should update it as regularly as possible, include things like video, and try to make sure that your content gets shared socially. All these things will help your content be seen. So keep this in mind when you plan your content strategy so you can maximize on the return on your investment.
All right, time for Ask Kochie, and Wendy has sent in a question via Facebook. Wendy says, I have this idea that I would love to get off the ground but don't know where to start. I'm not rich enough to patent the idea. Any advice would be appreciated. Well, Wendy, if you're just starting out, the best thing you can do is head along to your local business enterprise centre for an introduction to business course. They only charge a nominal fee, and usually it includes 2 hours free consultation with a business advisor. Very handy for a new business. You can find your local centre through the Grants and Advisor Finder on business.gov, that's the website, or through your local Chamber of Commerce. Really great resource. And of course, start reading up on the area. KBB's weekly newsletter provides an entertaining and informative take on everything small business. So sign up now and start your all-important education. See you next time. Next week on KBB, branding lessons from a budding brewer, networking tips from a well-connected expert, and another super Australian success story.